All right, guys, what's up? Justin here. There's a whiteboard, so whiteboard Wednesday. Well, whatever day it's gonna be, but it's a whiteboard video. So today I'm gonna go over how to kind of set up and write your own programs. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go through some factors that I take into consideration when I'm doing a program for myself or a client. So I'm gonna go through this little setup first, and then I'm gonna show you guys exactly what I am currently doing, and kind of explain why I'm doing it, in considering all these factors here as well. Okay, so the first thing you're gonna need to do is figure out what your goal is for said training program. And a lot of this stuff is going to reference back to the video I did about breaking through the training plateaus, which I'll link up in here somewhere. So you can kind of go back and forth on that one as well. There can be some overlap as far as that goes. So anyways, training goal. You want to pick something that you want to accomplish at the end of said training session or training cycle. I always keep saying session when I do these. It's got to be something specific and measurable, okay? So I have a competition that I'm hoping to do in January. That's all max events. So it's a max log, max deadlift, max farmer's walk for 30 feet, and then max stone. So my goals for that specific program would be 360 plus log, 675 deadlift, 425 farmers, and then I'd like to load the 450 stone that we have at Lightning. So, specific, measurable, you want to start there so that you have something to work towards and work back from. So if you have your goal and you know how long the training cycle is going to be, you can kind of work backwards from that goal and figure out where you should be in each week, and then in each session what your numbers should be, what kind of range you should be working in as far as that goes. Second thing would be your schedule. Again, I kind of touched on this in another video. You want to make sure that you have a schedule that you're going to be able to stick to, whether it's 2 days a week, whether it's 5 days a week, whether it's 2 sessions a day for 6 days a week. Whatever works for your schedule and is something that you're going to be able to stick to no matter what. Once you have that schedule set, that is your schedule, that is your training days, those are the times that you train. Nothing short of family emergencies, something like that gets in the way of that training. Make sure that if it's something you want to do, you have to prioritize it. So setting up a schedule that fits into your life is the way to kind of do that, and then make sure you make the decision to stick to that schedule and be consistent with it. The third thing would be to figure out where your weak points are. So this kind of goes hand in hand with the training goals. So depending on what your goals are in training, then you can kind of decide where the weak points are on those specific things that you're working on, and figure out from there what you need to prioritize as far as training wise. This helps a lot if you have a training journal. Obviously, you can kind of see either things you've neglected in the past or things that necessarily aren't something that you're good at that could influence the goals at the end of your training cycle. So those are the things you want to focus on. If you don't have any kind of history training, if you're just starting out, this would be a good spot to kind of maybe hire a coach. Not necessarily even for the whole training cycle, although that would be a good idea as well. Maybe just to work on like send a video or something like that, have them give you tweaks on your specific exercises, see if there's any movement quality stuff that you need to work on as well, especially if you don't have a lot of experience. Obviously, one way to get experience is to get under the bar and move and do a variety of exercises and all that as well. There's a lot of information out there on the internet as far as how to do things. You can go that route too. It's going to take a little bit longer. That's kind of what I've done for myself. It started 22 years ago now, so a lot of time under the bar, which is, you're going to need that anyways, but it might be a good idea to kind of accelerate that a little bit with a coach or a really good training partner who has your best interest in mind, who kind of knows is a little bit further advanced than you and knows what is going on, what you need to work on specifically. Okay, so weak points, hire a coach, get somebody that is a couple steps ahead of you as far as the training wise, that can kind of look at your form and figure out where you're weak on specific exercises so you can kind of bring those points up. Fourth thing would be training economy. Jesus. So what I mean by this is kind of getting the most bang for your buck exercise wise. So I know we all have lives outside of the gym that we like to do things as well. I mean, some of you might want to spend your whole life in the gym. I personally do not, although I love training. I don't want to be there for 6 hours a day. So we have to pick exercises that are going to focus on weak points and focus on our end goals for training that are going to give us the most bang for our buck. So usually bigger compound movements, stuff that's going to train multiple areas at once, whether it be weak muscles, weak movement patterns, involving different things all together. So maybe some kind of like a metabolic conditioning thing if you're out of shape, something like that, and you need to kind of get some conditioning in as well as your lifting, something along those lines. So making sure that you're picking exercises that are doing more than one thing for you. So we don't want to spend our whole time doing leg extensions, leg curls, calf raise, like do a squat. It's going to have a lot more benefit for you. And if you want to do something aside from that, like something like a sled drag or a prowler push is going to be more beneficial than doing the isolation stuff. If you have the time and you want to throw that stuff in at the end, that's perfectly fine. That would be up to you as far as how much time you want to spend in the gym. But the vast majority of your training should be spent on big compound movements that are going to have multiple carryover effect for different things as well. Okay, so the last thing that I kind of consider or that I do as the program goes on, tweaking versus overhauling. So this has taken me personally quite a while to figure out difference-wise. I see a lot of people completely changing a program after a couple weeks. I've been guilty of that myself in the past as well. Like I said, it kind of took me a lot of trial and error to figure out what the difference is. So basically, you want to, as you go along, you're going to be wanting to kind of tweak things. So tweaking things would mean maybe like changing the rep scheme, changing out to maybe a similar exercise that maybe you're doing a box squat and you don't feel like it's giving you what you need. Maybe you want to switch to like a pause squat, something like that. So changing something, a parameter that's, you're not completely eliminating something or changing the whole program around. And I'll show you kind of an example of that when I go to my programming. Basically, you want to stay on the program. If you need to tweak a couple things, that's fine, which you should need to tweak things as you progress, as you get stronger. Maybe your weak points came up faster than you thought and you want to work on a different weak point. That would be something like tweaking. Instead of saying you're doing, let's just say you're doing 5-3-1 as far as program wise, and you get to like week 4, 5 or so, and you're like, nah, I think I need to switch to the Texas method. That would be overhauling. That's completely changing everything you're doing. You're not getting through the whole program. If you keep doing that, hopping around from thing to thing like that, you're never going to get any kind of results. So learn the difference between tweaking a couple things in your program and completely either changing a program or overhauling the whole thing. So you want to tweak maybe 1 or 2 things every couple weeks or so. And you might not need to. If you need to change things, you feel like something is not working for you, learn the difference between, like I said, tweaking, making small incremental changes, or throwing out everything that you had and starting over. So that's pretty much basic things that I go through as far as setup wise. So let's get into exactly what I'm doing right now, and this might make a little more sense for you guys if it hasn't already. So I'm gonna write that down and I'll be back. All right guys, so here we are. This is my current program. I kind of just did 1 week for you guys so you can kind of see what I'm doing this coming week. If you guys want the whole overall program, I can do that for you as well. Just leave me a comment down below if that's what you want, something you want to see. I could go through the whole program. But going back to the principles that I was talking about in the beginning, so I got my goals, like I said, up at the top. Okay, my schedule currently is 3 days a week, so I'm doing Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. And as you can see, I put a time limit for myself for 2 hours. So that includes warm-up, conditioning, stretching at the end, all that. Doesn't include my drive back and forth to the gym, but 2-hour limit for the workout. That goes back to the training economy that I was talking about earlier as well. So that really forces me to pick exercises that are going to have the most bang for the buck, so I'm not at the gym forever. So as far as myself, my weak points, static strength overall. So especially for the log, especially like shoulder strength. As you can see, glutes is a big issue for me as well. And just in general, static strength. So that's the big thing that I'm working on. That's one of the reasons why I decided to, train for this particular show, because it's all maxes. Obviously, all max effort events, you have to be fucking strong. So that's one of the reasons I did that. And that's another thing too, guys. Try to stretch yourselves. Pick something that is above and beyond what you can currently do. Give yourself a time frame to work on it and try to accomplish that. Even if you don't compete in something, whether it be strongman, powerlifting, whatever, I would suggest like making a mock competition with yourself. So even if it's you're just doing powerlifting, you want to squat, bench, deadlift, set yourself, 16, 20 weeks or something. Set a goal of what you want to do on each lift. Work backwards from there, and then train for that like it's a competition. It doesn't matter if you're competing against other people. You should always be competing against yourself. So that's a good way to kind of get motivated to train. Sometimes when I don't have something specific to train for, I kind of waffle back and forth on what I'm going to do. I don't really put a plan together. I'm sure a lot of other people out there are like that as well. So I always like to have something specific to train for, whether it be something that I made up myself or an actual competition. Okay, so getting back to this, singles on deadlift have always been my kind of bane of my existence. I'm usually pretty decent at rep work, even in higher percentages. But once I get to the point where I have to pull singles for a max or something like that, that's really where I start struggling. So as you'll see, I did a couple things to kind of help that. And then obviously conditioning overall. I kind of got away from doing a lot of conditioning work in the last few months or so, and it definitely shows. So building back up that base of conditioning is going to help overall with the whole training program. So going back to the training economy again. So it's log, deadlift, farmers, and stone. So I'm doing log twice a week, deadlift twice a week, farmers twice a week. I'm switching up, as you can see if you're looking ahead at the bottom here, I'm switching up what I'm doing for each of those so that I'm not just going heavy all the time. That's another thing that I think people do too much. There's a time and a place to go heavy for a couple weeks in a row, but that shouldn't be the majority of your training. Okay, and then as far as the tweaking versus overhauling, so this log push press the first couple weeks was a strict press. In the past, I haven't really done strict press, and I'm kind of figuring out that it was because I don't feel like I get much out of it, to be honest. So I've switched it to a push press. I feel like I get a lot more out of that, since when I do compete, my competition press for anything is a jerk. So I feel like I get a lot more out of the push press using the leg drive and whatnot. I'm going to be adding in a front squat on Thursday. I was doing some single leg stuff and some back attack, but I just feel like the front squat is going to be more beneficial in less time. I have to do, instead of doing 2 exercises, I only have to do 1, training economy. More beneficial for stones, as well as the jerk for the log as well, getting used to holding that weight on my chest. And then recently I've been able to add in, I used to do morning walks all the time for conditioning. I used to go quite a ways. So I've been able to add that in on my days off from the gym. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I've been doing walks early in the morning. Really like that, and I'm going to continue with that. So that was another tweak. So as you can see, I didn't change anything program-wise. I just kind of tweaked a couple exercises, maybe added one in. That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about, not overhauling the entire program. So we'll go through the program real quick. So I like to do a lot of superset stuff especially for upper body. I feel like I get a lot more done in a lot less time. Training economy. And I just feel like upper body can sustain a lot more superset type stuff than lower body. So we do push press, superset with pull downs and face pulls. Sometimes these exercises will change depending on what I feel I need over the couple weeks. I usually keep them the same for at least 3 weeks or so, and then kind of tweak it from there. So, and then I go into a sumo deadlift. So going back to this, I feel like that will really help glute-wise, strength, lockout, stuff like that. I haven't really ever concentrated on the sumo deadlift before, so I feel like that is something that I should probably do, and I think that is going to help me as well. I'm keeping those rather light, and I'm going to work more volume than actual weight on those, just so I'm not doing too heavy deadlift sessions per week. I'm getting enough pulling off the floor with the deadlift, farmers, and stones all together as well, and the log as well. And then this is like a speed farmers. So basically 45 seconds rest in between those. A lightish percentage, so staying probably 60 to 70% on those. Working on speed, technique, and kind of conditioning as well. And then I did a little conditioning circuit this past Tuesday, so prowler, down and back, and then sandbag roll-ups. This stuff will change. I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do protocol-wise on those. Conditioning, I kind of just put those in there so you guys can see what the conditioning might look like. Sometimes it'll be a circuit, sometimes it'll be, rower, Tabata on a salt bike, something like that, depending on what I feel I need and how much time I have available that day at the end of my session. Okay, so moving on to Thursday. Thursday is heavy singles on deadlift. So I started this program at 85%. So I'm going 85, 87, 90, 92, very conservative percentage jumps on those. Not taking super long rest on those either, so maybe like a minute. And then, as you can see, more supersets for upper body. So that's kind of like my upper body accessory day. I really like the floor press, and the seal row is one of my favorite rows for back. It really hits everything great, and you're really concentrating on using your actual muscle instead of flinging the weight around. Obviously, there's a time and a place for some body English on rows, but I personally like to spend more time on concentrating on the muscle on the rows. And then here I am, I'm adding in that front box squat. I think that's going to help stones and log, like I said, and then superset that with the suitcase carry. So basically a one-arm farmers for core strength, some grip in there as well, conditioning. And then Saturday is, a basic kind of strongman day. Heavier singles, jerk singles on the log. So I've been kind of going up like 10 pounds or so each week. Seeing how that feels. So far so good. I might tweak that too as we go along. Farmers, same thing. Those are gonna be my heavier runs. I started at 330, I think. I actually jumped 1 week, I think it was 2 weeks ago, up to 390. Almost made it the full 30 feet, but ripped a callus. So gonna continue with that. And then stones, what I'm doing is kind of rotating. So last week I did heavy singles. This week will be series, so like 5 stone series, a couple runs through that, and then next week will probably be off of stone. So I don't like to do stones every week. Usually 2 weeks in a row, like heavy and medium is enough for me. My biceps start bothering me a little bit after that. So I'll probably add in, instead of doing stones next week, I'll probably do like good mornings or the back attack, some other posterior chain stuff, RDL, something like that, to kind of keep that movement pattern, but not actually doing the stones to save my biceps a little bit. And then, like I said, conditioning could be prowler, it could be, sandbag carries, it could be another day of assault bike rower, whatever I'm feeling that day as far as conditioning wise. So that's pretty much it, guys. I hope that all of that makes sense. I know it's kind of a long video, but I wanted to give you guys as much information as I could, and hopefully you have some tools now to kind of figure out how to put together your own training programs. If you do have more questions, obviously leave me a comment down below. If you want me to actually do your training program for you, I do that as well. Email is down below in the description. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the next video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and share the video, comment, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks, guys.